Hi, this is Sheila with Successful Women Talk. I want to say thanks for joining me today. Today on the show, I have a super guest, and she's a rock star. No, really, she is a rock star, or was a rock star. Maybe she is still a rock star. We have Cher Ross. Cher is the creator and mastermind behind Rev It Up, Release Your Inner Rock Star, and Video Rockstar University. Cher was truly a rock star. She was the bassist in the band Vixen. So she has taken that talent and her love for video and the things that she's learned over the years as far as video is concerned, and she's created an entire business around it. And so today we're going to talk video marketing. We're going to talk how to present yourself better on video, how to be comfortable on video, some tips and tricks for lighting, smiling, etc. So join me in my interview with Cher. And also, don't forget to go over to our website, www.successfulwomentalk.com. Join the community. We'll see you on the other side of the interview. Hi, everyone. This is Sheila Butler with Successful Women Talk. I want to say thanks for joining me today. Today, I'm super excited, and I know I say super excited a lot, but today on the show, we have Cher Ross. She is the creator and mastermind behind Rev It Up, Release Your Inner Rock Star, and Video Rockstar University. So I can't wait to share her story with you and for you guys to learn a little bit more about video because she's a master at it. She's a true rock star. So welcome, Cher.
Thank you, Sheila. It's nice to be here. Thank you so much. I love your show.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from somebody that I said, I'll explain why, but I feel like I already know you because we partied together in the 80s, although we really didn't. And what I mean by that is Cher is a true rock star. She was a bassist in the band rock band Vixen. So I listened to Vixen. Actually, I listened to it this morning. I felt like I was 21 again. It was kind of cool. But let's learn more about your story. So tell us a little bit about your background, your history, and how you got started in your current business.
Sure. Well, I was always a musician and grew up in music and eventually moved to the big city of Los Angeles after being in Minnesota. And so when I moved to LA, and I eventually hunted down, what bands I wanted to be in and whatnot, and ended up in this band called Vixen, which at that time and nobody had ever heard of. And we got signed to a big old record deal and ended up touring all over the world. And it was funny, looking back on it, it's sort of like I grew up in that band. I was not like 18, but mentally and emotionally, I probably was about 15.
Right.
I was like that little kid from Minnesota going, well, I've never been anywhere. And I just didn't know.
From Minnesota to LA, wow.
Yeah, it was a big leap. It was definitely a big leap. And I really had a lot to learn about, working with other people and teamwork and stuff like that. So the band actually kind of taught me a lot of those things. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, we played with Ozzy and Bon Jovi and Aerosmith and Kiss. And the tours were always a blast. And we worked our butts off. We played something like, I think the number was like 330 gigs a year.
Wow. We
were busy. And when that all that went on for about 5 or 6 years, and when that all kind of came to an end, we broke up, and a lot of things followed that, which are way too many for me to go into. In a nutshell, fast forward many years, and I ended up meeting my my now husband. We've been married for, gosh, it's been a while, and you can't really remember. I think 16 years. That's funny. I can't remember. His name's Bam. He's an English guy, drummer, amazing musician. And we ended up forming another band together, and sort of on a whim, actually. And I'm really well known as a bass player, but I've never been one to let anything hold me back. So I wanted to play guitar good enough to play our songs that we kept writing. And a really good friend of ours who's a phenomenal blues guitarist said, you're really struggling with like regular guitar because you're such a bass player. He said, you could play it with this thing called open G tuning, which is used by all the blues guys, and Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones actually wrote most of their hits in this tuning.
Interesting.
I was like, well, if it's okay with Keith, it's okay with me.
I think I can.
Yeah, I could handle that. And so he showed me this tuning, and there's 2 ways you can do it, and I do it, normal guitar has 6 strings on it, but there's another way you can do this tuning, which is to actually take a string off. So I learned to play a 5-string open G tuning, and the secret was to make sure that the songs that we wrote didn't sound like Rolling Stone songs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you learned to play the electric guitar Like a lead guitar.
Yeah. I played, I learned, all my little Chuck Berry licks and stuff, and made sure I didn't write Rolling Stones songs over and over again, which you have a tendency to do in this tuning. And we had this band called Bubble, and we ended up touring the world as well and winning awards. And I won Best Female Guitarist 2 times.
Wow.
Which
That's
was
really amazing, from going from a bassist, teaching yourself and being taught how to play the lead guitar and then getting an award for that.
It was astonishing. There was that part of me that kept going, do you have the right person? Do you know that I'm really a bass player? So that was really, I think that was sort of my first eye-opening experience of make it work for yourself. Just make it work. Find a way and make it happen.
I love that.
Yeah, and that was really great. And in the whole process of that band, we ended up writing our own songs, obviously writing our own songs, but recording our own songs, producing our own records, booking our own tours. We did everything. It was very grassroots. And we had a lot of what they call independent success, back then. And eventually some things happened. Quite frankly, we did 3 albums, 3 EPs. We were getting a little burned out on it. And then I found out that my mother had lung cancer, and it was really advanced. And I was like, whoa, completely freaked out. And my mom and I were really, really tight. So I ended up, helping out a lot to walk her through all of that. Not walk her, be there with her, you know what I mean, to honor our relationship. So I flew back to Minnesota a lot. And in a very short amount of time, she died. And when I came back from all of that, Bam very gently said, what do you want to do?
I love that, very gently.
Very gently, because he knew I needed to do something. I'm not one to just I'm just going to sit here and cry for a year. That's not going to work. And I just didn't have it in me to play a gig. It just was not there, And so he said, well, one of our friends, I read this article about him, and he's doing all this stuff with podcasting, and why don't we do the same thing but with video?
Very cool.
Like, well, okay, but I'm kind of afraid to be on camera.
Okay, how does that happen?
I know. Well, it's one thing to be on stage with a prop, i.e. guitar or a bass. It's another thing to just sit there and talk to a camera like it's your best friend. And I also have, and actually looking into the lens all the time and going blah, 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 blah. I mean, that's just, let's face it, it's not natural.
True.
It's just not natural. And unless you're a trained actor, maybe then it's more, normal for you to do that. But most of us are not trained actors.
Very interesting.
So it kind of started off as well, he's very, very gifted when it comes to photography and filming and all that kind of stuff. And so he said, well, why don't we, I have this video camera and we can borrow up another video camera. Why don't we go and find a band to film? Because we're always telling our friends how many great bands there are here in Hollywood. And I was like, okay, yeah, that would be cool.
Sure.
And he's like, and then you can interview them. And I'm like, really? Why do I have to do that? It was very resistant. And this became the show called Rock and Roll TV in 2005. And so it just started off as this crazy place of passion, and over a matter of months, we took it very seriously. And because he knew so much about all this video stuff, he started teaching me everything and started showing me, how to edit video, and I started to learn how to do that. And then I'm watching the videos back, so I'm seeing what's working and what's not working in terms of me talking to the camera as well. And I learned how to light myself and do all this crazy stuff. And eventually, the show started getting 5 million downloads a month.
Wow. Yeah.
And I'd like to take all the credit for that, but I think it had a lot to do with the awesome bands that we were featuring.
That's beside the point. That's beside the point.
Yes, thank you very much. We were very, very proud. And the show actually got sort of it was sort of like a record deal. We got signed to an online entertainment network.
Interesting.
And that's where the whole love affair with video began. And I just kept evolving and evolving and evolving. And we would do 2 camera shoots with 2 microphones at a band's gig. And then we'd set up in a way outside with no lights. We just used street lights and whatever was available. So I even learned, like, okay, how do you shoot? It was very guerrilla. It was like guerrilla video production. And a lot of times we had to dodge bouncers and not get caught. And I mean, it was crazy. Clubs didn't want us to promote them. It was insane. So we had a lot of fun and promoted a lot of bands that actually have gone on to be pretty well known now. One of them, Semi-Precious Weapons, is toured with Lady Gaga.
Wow.
The Answer are out of Ireland. I can't remember who. I think they toured with AC/DC. They're huge. And both of those guys, we hooked up with them when nobody had ever heard of them. And we were like, these guys are good.
And we're going to show you on our interview show. They're good.
Yes. Yes. And we would film them live as well. So you always got to see them in action.
That's great.
Yes, we had a lot of fun, and I learned in the process so many things. I mean, just so much. I would be coaching the bands during the interview of, okay, don't look at the camera when I'm talking to you. Talk to me. Don't talk to the camera. And answer in full sentences. So I started to learn all this stuff. And then eventually that led to BAM and me getting hired by record companies. And so they started hiring us to do all sorts of work for them. So then it became very serious. But we still kept going with Rock and Roll TV, kept up Rock and Roll TV, do all this work for Sony and Geffen and Universal and all this crazy stuff. And yeah, and then how did we get here? And then life changed again, and you know, we just Rock and Roll TV changed when the economy crashed. The record companies ran out of money. They said, oh, we're not hiring anybody now. It's all in-house. It's all in-house. Sorry, I can't hire you. Okay. And Rock and Roll TV, the club started to say, oh, no, you can't come in here and film anymore. Unless you want to pay, I think it was like $500 a camera and $500 a microphone. Then we'll let you film.
Oh, yeah.
So that was like, okay, we're not going to film bands anymore then. Okay, that's not going to work. So the whole online show changed, and it evolved into more of like a news show. And I like to say I became Martha Quinn on MTV, if you remember vintage MTV.
Yep. Now the younger ones won't, but that's when MTV really played music.
Yes.
Right? They don't do that anymore, but they used to really play music and have videos. It was an interesting concept.
It was.
Music, video, TV, yeah.
Yes, MTV was a big factor in breaking Vixen into the public. So yes, thank you, MTV.
Yes, and I loved MTV back then. Now my niece talks about MTV and they're watching kids get pregnant teenagers. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I know, it's crazy. It's all become programming.
Where's the music?
Yeah, it makes no sense.
I agree, it's odd.
I know, it's totally crazy. So I guess like I'm trying to get into like that's what gave me all this crazy experience, and I had to go through all sorts of mental gyrations to get myself to talk to a camera, and I just was like, can I just please have a guitar? I think in the very first episode of Rock and Roll TV, I think I'm holding a guitar.
I'm holding a pen. I sometimes pretend that it's a guitar.
That's good. Air a guitar with a pen.
That's right. My kids, they're 3.5 and 2.5, they think I am a rock star because I play a very mean air guitar.
That's cool.
Well, your story is fascinating, and it is amazing to me, and I have so many paths I could go down versus what we talked about so far, but, you know, I think, like you said something I want to touch on real quickly. I think a lot of people think, you've made it, you're a rock star, it is the most awesome life of all, but like you said, you guys were doing 300 plus shows a year. That's a lot of work. It's not just, you know, glitter and glam. It's hard work.
Oh yeah, our days were booked. Our days were completely booked. I would wake up. Basically, you'd wake up on the bus, and then you'd put on whatever, and you'd always put on sunglasses because there'd be fans waiting outside the bus. And you don't want, you're a chick. You don't want to walk off the bus with your no makeup look, and then suddenly it appears in a magazine. This is what they really look like. So we always put like big sunglasses on and stuff. We run into the hotel. That would be at about 7 in the morning. We got kicked off the bus because the bus had to go to the gig with the roadies because we shared our bus with our roadies. So we'd get kicked off the bus at about 6 or 7 in the morning and then file into hotel rooms under fake names. I think mine was Barry Kuda.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so my name's Mr. Kuda. Yeah, there was Barry Kuda, Bill Dang, and I don't remember.
Oh, that's great.
And file into our hotel rooms, and by about 10 a.m. there would be a piece of paper that whoop, went under your door, and that was your itinerary for the day. Wow. And, you know, there was interviews and lunches and meet and greets and signings and radio station visits and record store visits back in the day when we had record stores. And we even went to, you know, you'd go to CD manufacturing plants and places like this. It was all talk about marketing and promotion. It was all about having relationships with everybody and anybody that had anything to do with the process of getting our name out there.
And I guess you have, and it's the same way today. And you know, luckily now we have a lot of tools that we use, Facebook, Twitter, yeah. all those things. But back then you were like hoofing it. I mean, you had to get that same, to build those same relationships. You actually had to get out there and do it.
Yeah.
Which is what we need to be doing today.
Yeah, I think we could probably use a little bit more of that in-person connection. I know for me, I tend to get very sucked into the world of my computer, and I forget that, oh, I could actually go somewhere and meet some people at an event. Oh, that's terrifying. Leave my computer.
Before we started recording, we were both laughing about the fact that we put on perfume before this interview, and neither of us know it. I mean, we know it now, but it's, I mean, I'm preparing as if I'm talking to someone. So maybe I should go share that with someone, like really face to face.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
Well, let me ask you this. You said something else that I thought was interesting, which is, although you played on stage and you were in front of hundreds of thousands of people, it's still different getting on video. It's totally different, and there's a comfort level. And I think Ruth Sherman told me the same thing when we were talking about video, is that even politicians and actresses, they may seem really polished on the screen, but it doesn't come easy to everyone. It's a learned skill. So let's talk about that, about how did you get comfortable in front of the screen, and what can other people do to get comfortable in front of a camera?
Well, I definitely felt like I was coached by my husband during the process of rock and roll TV, and he would start to point out things that were working. One of the simplest things I always say to people is, if you're going to post videos on your blog, you got to get used to smiling. Yeah. And it doesn't feel natural, and you're going to feel really weird. Yep. And you're sitting there talking, and you got this smile on your face, and you're going, yeah, and so today, blah, blah, and you're just going, that feels really wrong.
Yeah, you're smiling, and you're not staring, you're not looking at their face. Like right now, I'm looking at your eyes, which I prefer, but we're taught to look at the lens and smile at the same time. It's very strange. Yeah, it really is.
It is very strange. It's very, very strange. And so that was one of the main things that I started to notice right away, was like, okay, smiling is crucial. Where you place the camera is also crucial. I see a lot of business owners placing working from a laptop, so the camera is too low.
Right.
They're looking down here, and the camera's coming up the chin, which is one of the most horribly unflattering things you could possibly do ever.
That's right.
And then they watch it back and they go, oh, I hate my videos. It looks so bad. So it was, again, another thing that I learned very early on. And since then, I've actually done a video interview. Some of the girls in Vixen and me have realigned. We can't use a name, but it's the singer, the drummer, and me, and we're Janet, Cher, Roxy, Gina. We had to we can't have the guitar player. So we recently did a video interview, and I corrected the guy. I'm like, you're too low. You got to come up. You're too low. I'm not going to talk to you until you bring the camera up.
And everybody's looking at you like, really? Where did this come from? But you now have learned.
Yes.
And it's an art, right? It's an art. It's a little science.
Yeah, to me, it's no different than when I wanted to learn the bass or I wanted to learn that 5-string guitar. You know, you got to practice. You got to learn. You got to get feedback. And that's where the difference comes in, and having this crazy expectation that you're going to sit down and talk to a lens and you're going to be amazing. That's not a very realistic expectation.
Right.
And it's kind of setting yourself up to be disappointed. So I think having the expectation that it's going to be fun, that it's going to be a learning process, and being open to putting some time and energy into it, and then the results are incredible.
Absolutely.
Absolutely incredible.
How do you teach people, or how comfortable can someone be like doing videos? And you say it's the media of the future. Some people are just now getting into podcasting. So how do you convince a business owner that maybe video is the way to go for their website or for their business, etc., when it's a little scary?
Well, it comes down to a few things. One thing is people want to know who you are. And because of what we were just saying, that we're also glued into our computers right now, it's not as easy to go out and meet people as it was, say, 10 years ago. And it's almost expected that you, as a business owner, are going to have some sort of video on your website, introducing yourself, talking about why you do what you do. And I mean, the statistics are just overwhelming, you know, in terms of this website has a video, they get this much traffic and this much return visitors, this website doesn't, and they're out. You know, I mean, I forget the numbers now because it's absolutely, everything you look at is just, it's insane. And it's just simple as, I feel like I know you from having watched your video show.
Right.
And when I feel like I know you, then that lets me trust you. And if I trust you, I'm willing to do business with you.
I agree.
It's like 2 + 2 = 4. It really just, all you have to do, think about your own behavior. If you go to a website and the guy there has a video and let's just say, for argument's sake, that it's horrible and he's really stiff and he looks really angry, you're probably not going to want to do business with him.
Right.
But if you go to a website and, of course, there's a woman and she's researched it and she's worked it and she knows what she's doing.
She's smiling.
And she's smiling at the camera and she's enjoying it and she's delivering a very effective video in like 2 minutes or 3 minutes tops. You're thinking, yeah, you know what? I relate to her. I understand her.
Yeah.
I want to come back to her website more and maybe I'm going to sign up for her service or product or whatever it might be.
Yeah, like Marie Forleo, she's terrific at that, right? I mean, she's really good at making, I mean, her videos are great anyways, but even if you watch her early videos before she got a production crew, they were still pretty good because she was very personable.
Yes, yes. And it is always about having a conversation. And whenever somebody's really nervous about being on camera, the main thing I always say to remember is, you know what? Your video is not actually about you. As much as I'm saying it's going to reflect on you and your website, it's actually about how you can help your client. It's like, how can you be of service?
I love that. That's a terrific point.
Yeah, that's the #1 thing. When you think about your videos, how can you be of service? And whatever that is, that's what you need to shift into.
You know, I love that. And another thing that you said, and it kind of goes back to where you are today, but you mentioned that you started in a band really young, and then you learned how to play the lead guitar after playing the bass for so long, and then you excelled at that, and then you've now transitioned to this, and it seems like there's a common theme here that you continue to try, you put yourself out there, you're not afraid, and you continue to learn, which I think is so important.
It is. It truly is. And I'm a big believer in constantly challenging yourself and evolving, and there are certain things that just happen, aren't they? You're on a path and then whoop, the rug kind of gets pulled out from under you, or something is, a new opportunity appears, and the choice is always up to you, how you're going to react.
True.
I always say, you don't always control what happens to you, but you can control your reactions.
Absolutely.
And that's where I think there's a big, that's where the fork in the road happens.
I agree.
And my dad was a huge optimist, so he definitely taught me that skill of like, well, let's talk about what's good about this.
Yeah.
Let's find the good things in this.
Exactly. I mean, you see yourself in a totally different point where you were, 15, 20. It doesn't seem like it was 20-something years ago, but it really was.
Time ago.
Sometimes I go, did I really just get an invitation to my 25th high school reunion? I think I'm 21 still, but I'm really not.
I know, isn't it crazy? In our heads, we're always so young.
It's crazy. And I look in the mirror and I go, oh, well, maybe not.
Yeah, I know. Me too. Tell me about it. I know, it's crazy. I mean, like I just started a running program. And in my 30s, I was a bit of a runner. I was pretty good. I was running in the mountains in LA. It's like nice dirt trails, and I got real good at it, and I was really fit. And then, life moved along, blah, 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 blah. Started gigging a lot with our band Bubble and touring, and then eventually we ended up moving to Florida here, and I thought, I need to take advantage of the situation around here and challenge myself again. And somebody told me about a free app for my phone called Couch to 5K.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly what it sounds. It takes you from being a couch potato to running a 5K marathon.
We're going to have to link that up. I love the sound of that.
It's amazing. And I had to repeat week 3 quite a bit.
A couple of weeks?
Yeah. But I'm on week 4 now, and that's my advice to anybody who wants to do it. Do it your own way. Set your own pace. Listen to your body.
I love
and
that.
Study, and study good running form. That's my other.
And you can almost apply that to anything, okay? So we may not always look as great as you do and being as comfortable as you are on the camera, but I think you just continue to put yourself out there and try, and you become better.
Oh, definitely. My God, I just shot a video yesterday. Girl, I was sweating my brains out with nervousness.
How funny. See, when most people think, oh, she's a rock star, she has a video Rockstar University, she's so comfortable, but even you get nervous.
Heck yeah. And Bam looked at me and goes, you need to go towel off.
You're glistening.
Like crazy. And then the other thing is I have a funny little problem. There's probably a name for this, but I kind of have, like, when I get a little nervous,
yeah,
I have excessive saliva. I've never told this to anybody, Shelia. You have an exclusive on this.
This is an exclusive, and we're going to find out the medical term for that and link that up in the show notes. No, I'm just kidding.
There probably is one. It's not really, really bad.
How do you deal with it?
Well, here's what happens. I'm talking, it's easier in an interview because it's very conversational, but when I'm recording a video message, all of a sudden I'm like, I have to swallow. I have to get rid of all this saliva. And so it'll be like, I can feel it happening like in the middle of a sentence.
And mentally you're going, oh gosh.
Oh gosh, I'm going to have to swallow again. Oh gosh, here it comes. Here. Oh, can I make it to the end of the sentence? Oh. So it's a funny thing. We all have our little quirks, and that's like kind of mine, which is why you will very rarely see me ever do a video for, like, I can't speak for more than 30 seconds without having to.
Stop.
Okay, ready now.
I love that you bring up that point, because when I first started doing video, I thought, and I'm going to also do some videos that aren't just interviews, but I thought, how am I going to script myself and talk for 5 minutes straight? Well, the story is you don't.
Yeah.
You stop and maybe you have several takes, and then you have a bloopers video, so it makes it even better.
Definitely. I mean, one of my big things is you got to practice, you got to prepare, you got to rehearse, you got to be ready. And then, you know what? The funny thing is, the more you rehearse what you're going to say, and I don't mean memorize it, I'm not a big believer in that, but the more you're kind of ready, then funny thing happens, which I like to call planned spontaneity.
Yeah.
Which is, you kind of know what you're going to say, and then you kind of go, yeah. You can kind of go off a little bit because you're so in control of what it is you want to say that it allows you to vary. It's just like, I hate to bring it up again, it's just like being in a band. The more that I know a song, the more comfortable I am on the song. And, you got to play it right, especially if you have a hit. You got to play it the way the fans want it, blah, 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 blah. But there are a couple little places where you can, I can break away there.
I can throw my rock here away, yeah.
Yeah, do my little rock thing. And it's the same it's the same thing on video, baby. You can do your little rock thing in there.
You got to be a rock star.
Yeah, because ultimately, it's about getting your true personality across.
Yeah, I love that. And I've said this several times, not to you, but to other people, is I almost didn't do this video show because, first of all, I was a little nervous about being on camera. I have this terrible Southern accent, and I really almost didn't do it because of that. But people are like, it's fine. It's you. You have a great personality. Just do it and go with it. If you screw up, you screw up. Who cares?
And hello, you don't like your accent? I love your accent. How funny is that? We're all our biggest critics.
That is true.
That
is very true. So let me ask you, if someone wanted to release their inner rock star, maybe 2 or 3 tips you could give someone today to get them started before they go in and take I think most people should go in and I'm going to take your Video Rockstar University course. So what can someone do to be more comfortable and release that inner rock star?
Okay, a couple of things are, I'm just going to hit on some of the topics that my clients have dealt with the biggest. One of the biggest things I think we women struggle with is looking good on camera. We think, well, I tried to film myself and it looked horrible. So as you and I were discussing before we filmed, lighting is a really simple thing you can work on, and it doesn't have to be expensive.
My lighting is terrible, and like I said, next time you see a video, I'm going to look better.
And what I told you, Sheila, was to get a couple choices. Basically, what you want to look for is soft, diffuse lighting, and you want it to be at eye level or a little bit higher.
Okay.
And that's where you eliminate shadows. So you don't want to have lights on that are over your head. If I had a light on above me right now, I would have great big dark circles right here.
Gotcha.
If I had a light too low down here, then I'd have weird shadows coming up here. So, but right now I have a Home Depot 1 fluorescent tube up there inside a diffuser panel. That's it. That's the only light I have.
I love that.
But I've also used, depending on where I'm filming in the house, I also use the really cheap paper globe lights. Great big ones. And you put in a light bulb, and you find a way to hang it. I use mic stands because I have mic stands. So I hang a paper globe from that mic stand. I hang a paper globe from that mic stand. I put the camera on a tripod and I film. Lighting costs $20 maybe.
It makes a huge difference.
Oh my gosh,
I mean,
enormous.
Look at, the difference between you and I right now. I have very poor lighting, you have great lighting. And you can totally tell the difference.
And the reason I bring that up is because if you feel good about the way you look on camera, you're going to feel more confident about filming yourself, period.
That's right.
The second thing, which we kind of already touched on, is really getting to know what it is you want to talk about. Really actually sit down and rehearse it, or, you know, if you're embarrassed to do that, drive in your car, go for a walk, ride your bike, go have a long meeting in what I call the office, i.e. the bathroom. You know?
Whatever it takes.
Yeah, you really dive into what it is that you want to say, and keep it short. That's kind of two bullet points in there at the same time. But again, coming back to studies and science and whatever, scientific facts or whatever, people walk away, or in this case, surf off of internet videos when they're longer than 2 minutes.
Yes.
Unless you have a professional crew, blah, 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 blah. So for most of us DIY video makers, you want to keep it to around the 2-minute mark, which means you really have to know what you're going to say. Winston Churchill was asked how long it takes for him to prepare for an hour-long speech. And he said, well, that takes me about 10 or 15 minutes. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then they said, well, how long does it take you to prepare for a 30-minute speech? He said, oh, that takes, you know, at least a day. And then they said, you know, how long does it take for a 10-minute speech? He said, oh, well, that takes a week. Because the shorter amount of time you have to deliver your message, the more every word actually counts.
That's a terrific point.
So that's something to bear in mind when you think you're going to just sit down, oh, I'm just going to wing it. It's like, well, winging it is great, and I highly recommend it, but rehearse before you wing it.
It's almost like thinking in 140 characters, right? Almost like Twitter. You have to really make your message stick.
Yes, yes. And the other thing, well, we already talked about smiling, so I'm gonna say that that's really important, but we already talked about it. The other thing, and this will sound kind of obvious, but really learn to gaze lovingly into the lens and have a conversation. Okay. It's not a narration. It's a conversation. And I've talked to people about visualizing that there's a person there, visualizing you're having lunch with your best friend. I have little Post-its pointing to the lens on my iMac so that I really focus there, because sometimes I can la 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 la.
Yeah, I'm like way over here. I'm the same way.
Yeah, so whatever it takes. I had one student who, she was very artistic, and she created like a cat cutout that went all the way around the lens so that she could look at it and just made her giggle.
Well, I was telling someone the other day that I'm going to start getting a picture, printing out a picture of the guests. I'm going to tape it right there by my camera, so it's right above. So I'm almost like I'm looking at them, because it's really hard not to. Because then I want to look at you, because that's part of having conversation. And you know, I teach my 3.5-year-old to look at someone's eyes all the time, and I try not to. This whole conversation, it's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I mean, ultimately, video is this huge tool. It builds trust. You turn prospects into clients. It's like you triple your list overnight when you really start using video to its full advantage. And the results that I've seen from my clients are amazing. But ultimately, I just love seeing more women share their message.
On your site, people can actually book sessions with you. I mean, you have several different sessions, and you have one they could kind of create themselves and work with you. And so let's talk a little bit about that, and then let's touch on Rockstar University, Video Rockstar University as well.
Sure. Well, on the Share Ross site, I do work with people one-on-one. I just helped somebody who had, X amount of budget and really wanted to go from, filming herself on her computer to having a tripod with a nice camcorder and lighting setup and a backdrop. And she just dedicated one little spare bedroom to it, and the difference is enormous. She hasn't gone public with it yet. We're still fine-tuning everything, and then just helping her with some other aspects of that. So that's something that people can really, if you really want to make a big switch. Other people I've helped, another lady was really beneficial. Taking the script that you want to do something big with, maybe you're launching a service or a new product. Those kind of videos are crucial. They're what I call sticky videos because they're going to stick. You want them on there for a long time. So those are important, again, where every word really, really, really counts. And, it can be anything. It's all very custom, just making it work. I definitely recommend people consider the course at Video Rockstar University instead or first before they dive into the one-on-one. But for certain cases or because of timing, sometimes the one-on-one is just simply the best way to go.
It almost seems like you take the course and then you learn the basics. Because I've taken a few courses, and then after 6 months after I took the course, then I go back and go, now that I understand it, I'm going to take the course again because it's going to make so much more sense.
Very true. I have a ton of repeat students, yeah. Literally a ton. And there's an ever-growing alumni group as well that they post videos to each other, to get feedback and stuff.
That's
terrific. It's sort of like a growing art form.
Right.
And when you're a business owner, you want to put your best foot forward. So it's hard to shoot a video and then go, oh, it's not that good. What do I do?
And it's not something, and it's not something that a lot of us can just figure out on our own because it's not something we've been trained to do. I mean, I could go out on the internet and probably search for hours and find those things, time is money, or I could go to a course like yours and have it all there for me.
Yeah, definitely. It's sort of like taking all this information and consolidating it. And plus, I believe in giving you the tools. So, you could hire a professional and you'll get one video.
Right.
Or you could spend half of that and take the course and film yourself over and over and over and over and over again.
The ROI on that's much better.
Yeah, it's come on. We always like to do things ourselves. We're women.
That's
We're
right.
business owners.
We will figure this out. Well, Cher, I have loved this conversation. I so appreciate you being on the show. If someone wanted to connect with you, where do you want to send them?
Probably the best place to connect with me is on Facebook.
Okay.
And you just find me at facebook.com/ShareRoss. And
Perfect.
I would love to hear from anybody. If anybody has questions, if they want to just have a conversation. I'm not a big pusher on you must sign up for my course before I talk to you. Just ask me anything, and I'm always happy to help people out.
And I totally agree because I know before we got started, you were kind of giving me some tips on lighting because my lighting kind of sucks. But next time you see a video of mine, it's going to be better. You're going to be proud.
I can't wait. Awesome, Sheila. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a terrific day.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys, that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you again so much for joining me, and I ask that you go over to our website, www.successfulwomentalk.com. Join our community by signing up for the email list. This is the way that our community and show continues to grow. I appreciate your support, and I'll see you in the next interview.